Greetings, old school magic players, and welcome to the Four Horsemen. In today's video, we have the pleasure of being joined once again by the legendary old school magic player, Weissman. Brian and I will be covering Four Horsemen Old School Magic Tournament number 2, summary and matches, focused on the semi-finals. Tournament number 2 was a 4-week regimen from August 6th through September 3rd. As a quick recap for our viewers, the Four Horsemen Old School Magic format focuses on the original first 4 expansion sets of Magic the Gathering: Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, and the Dark. The banned and restricted list is as you see here. As with all of our tournaments, our tournament number 2 champion will be receiving our Ken Meyer Jr. Four Horsemen Guardian Beast Purple Moonlight custom playmat. The Four Horsemen and Ken Meyer Jr. had 100 of these custom playmats printed. They are signed and numbered by Ken Meyer Jr. If you're interested, we have a few of these playmats left. Visit fourhorsemanmagic.com for details. If you want to play old school magic where proxies are allowed, the Four Horsemen Old School Magic hosts tournaments every 4 to 5 weeks. Our next tournament, number 6, starts March 4th. Register on Teleria.app or join us at fourhorsemanmagic.com or facebook.com/groups/fourhorsemenmtg to play. We encourage you to join us for tournament number 6. Tournament number 6 will feature a 4-week schedule. Registration begins January 29th. The tournament will start on March 4th and goes through April 1st. This tournament will feature a special update to our banned and restricted and rules list. Please sign up today at Tuleria.app. Before we get into the match, we want to cordially invite all of our old school magic players out there to join us on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our virtual meetup Battle Royale. Every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, the Four Horsemen Old School Magic Players group meets on our Facebook and whereby. Please join us for camaraderie, conversation, casual games, and deck testing, and proxies are allowed. If you have watched our previous videos, Brian, Weissman, and I have been covering the Four Horsemen Old School Magic Tournament number 2, summary and matches. In today's video, we are focused on the semi-finals. Phillipe Bizien faces off with Chadster Jr., and Bowab faces off with Ekleberry. Today, Brian, Weissman, and I will be covering the semi-finals match between Phillipe Bizien and Chadster Jr. Yours truly, Chadster Jr. is piloting his red-green Aggro Bloodmoon deck, while Phillipe Bizien is piloting his blue-green Aggro Creatures deck. You're welcome to view our previous videos for in-depth deck tech reviews by Brian Weissman. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's go to the match.
Phillipe on the left, I'm not sure if he's on the left side, is playing a blue-green kind of skies deck, kind of just general beatdown using some of the best cards in the format, particularly with a heavy emphasis on Arabian Nights cards. He's got a set of 4 Flying Men, 4 Serendip Afrits, 4 Erhnam Djinn, and even 2 Serendip Djinns, rounding out the 4-drop creatures. He also has a pair of Wailuli Wolves and 3 Elves of Deep Shadow for acceleration. He's also running 4 copies of Unstable Mutation to just pump these flyers up and smash for damage to basically accelerate the clock by a couple of turns. For card draw, which is obviously very scant in this format, he's running a pair of Sylvan Libraries He has 3 crumbles for artifact interaction, a couple of boomerangs, and finally rounding out the rest of the deck are 4 copies of Mana Drain, which don't really have a ton of utility in the deck. He doesn't really have a lot of things to pump the mana into, but the card is just the best counterspell in the format and flexible enough and useful enough that it's probably worth running 4 copies of. One interesting note about Phillipe's deck is, despite being a beatdown deck, he actually opted not to run any copies of Mishra's Factories. He does have 24 mana, but he doesn't have any factories, although he is running 4 copies of Strip Mine. So Mana Drain a little bit more perilous if he winds up having to Mana Drain a 6-drop. He might not have anything to pump the mana into. Phillipe's sideboard, not particularly well suited for this matchup. He's got a lot of anti-artifact stuff. Although I guess he does have 4 Flash Floods, which could be good against Chad's red-green deck. And other than that, 4 Energy Flux, Concordant Crossroads, another Crumble, a couple other copies of cards that he already has. Oh yeah, that's right. He also has a pair of Remove Souls too, which might prove to be pretty impactful against the deck that Chad is playing. And jumping over to Chad's deck, Chad is running a pretty standard red-green beatdown build with that's really designed to flourish in a Bloodmoon environment. Chad decided that Bloodmoon might be worth using because I guess we sort of modified the format a little bit. By the 4th event, you're allowed to play with alpha dual lands from the revised cycle, alpha cycle, and so Bloodmoon certainly went up a great deal in power. But Chad elected to run with 4 copies of Bloodmoon anyway, because there are a ton of very powerful special lands, and congruous to the use of Bloodmoon, Chad elected to not use factories either, although he does have 4 copies of Strip Mine. And Chad's deck is pretty good mana curve. He's got 4 copies of Elves of Deep Shadow, 4 copies of Scavenger Folk, 4 copies of Curdape. He has 4 Gothian Pixies, 4 Erhnam Djinns at the 4 mana range, and then a good suite of artifact removal. One place that Chad's gone really all in on is running 4 main deck Shatterstorms. This is obviously a reflection of the really overwhelming meta back in August when everybody was running Mishra's Workshop. So Chad really heavily metagamed against that deck. Those Shatterstorms are not going to be real good in the first game, but he does have 4 copies of Chain Lightning, copy of Pyrotechnics, and of course the aforementioned Blood Moons. And Chad's sideboard, I would say not amazing in the matchup, although he does have 4 active Volcanoes, which should be really good against those blue creatures, particularly if Phillipe keeps his Unstable Mutations in, and that would allow Chad to instant speed 2-for-1 him. Chad also has 2 copies of Ifbifafreet, which is a really powerful underplayed sleeper in the format, I think, and just kind of in old school Magic in general, and it could prove to be incredibly powerful against Phillipe's deck, although of course Phillipe running green also might have the ability to just pestilence away the Ifbifafreets and have them kill themselves. And Chad has 4 copies of Desert Twister, which he's sort of metagamed against one of the most omnipresent control threats in the format in the form of Moat, and doubt he'll be bringing those in probably against the blue-green deck. But this should be a really cool clash of styles, really interesting decks, and let's move forward into the games. All right, so we've got Chad on the left, we've got Phillipe on the right. Looks like they're drawing their opening hands. As the red-green player, as the red-green aggro player, what are you really looking for in your opening hand here?
I want 1 elf and 1 forest.
That's all you want.
And
that's a little more than that.
Well, the deck really does well if you can get a first turn elf and a second turn Blood Moon. It can do extremely well, or even a second turn pixie. First turn. Arabian Nights, Curdape, or Scavenger Folk, something like that. The Scavenger Folks are useful for taking out the early artifacts. You can even slow them down by getting rid of their Fellwar Stones. And so my goal is just to accelerate and try and get an Erhnam out, or a Blood Moon. That's really what I'm trying to do against most
Gotcha.
decks.
Well, I think in this game, Blood Moon, Shatterstorm, not too good. You're already facing down, and I see a Strip Mine coming down turn 2. That cannot be a good sign. That looks to me like you've got no green mana.
No green mana, and I'm dropping cards on the ground.
So flustered, you're dropping cards on the ground. You better have a Chain Lightning here next turn. You've already taken 4.
Yeah,
and
he had his early turn flying in
at your throat instantly. Yeah, I can already just tell by your body language. Why did you elect not to Strip Mine here?
I don't remember. I probably have an Erhnam in my hand or something like that, or I don't know. Maybe it was a mistake, or maybe I just felt like that this game was already going to be, a quick one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably would have gone after the green or the blue mana right there, just because if you let him develop any further, the only way you're going to win, knowing that you have no, and I'm left to wonder why you even kept the hand at all. But the only way you're going to win this game is if you top deck a Chain Lightning and you strip mine him and he doesn't draw any more land, because he's got Serendipifreets and Erhnam Djinns. So keeping on 3 and 4 mana would probably be the best thing. I think I would have probably stripped mine the island, even though it means that you I mean, it's too late now, but you got to just hope that the guy doesn't have any land once they get a start like this.
Yeah, and in retrospect, you're right.
All your way into it.
I should have mulliganed this hand.
And you're just dead instantly. Yeah,
that's dead.
We didn't have really much to say. That was a succinct 4-turn beatdown, and that's just what this blue-green deck can do. It can put on so much pressure, particularly with those unstable mutations early, and just pound your face in. So let's pause real quick here and talk about sideboarding. I'm curious to know. I mean, I think let's bring the decks back up again. So, Chad, tell me, what did you sideboard against blue-green? I know that you did have the advantage of foresight in your match against Phillipe. You certainly know what he was going to be playing, and I think that you were sharing deck lists.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we shared the deck lists after the quarterfinals, so everybody got a good look at everyone else's decks, and I knew that it was going to be a challenge playing Phillipe, not only because his deck is a challenging matchup for mine, but also because he's a very strong player. He made it pretty far in several of the tournaments we've had since, and he's a very strong player representing Canada very well in Full Horsemen. So he not only is a good player, but he's got a great deck. And so obviously I put in the active volcanoes. I think I did put in the if biffs, and I think I put in the extra pyrotechnics. I didn't have to worry too much about Moat, which is the main reason the Desert Twisters are in there. And if we look at Philippe's deck, he doesn't have much in the way of artifacts. So, for those cards that I just mentioned, I guess that's probably 7 cards. I could swap out the 4 Shatterstorms and the 3 Detonates, and that would be an even switch between those.
Did you keep Bloodmoons in against him?
Well, I think I did. I don't really remember, Brian, to be honest. It's been so long. He does have Pendlehavens and City of Brass, so I may have left them in. I really don't remember. I mean, certainly the Artifact Blasts are not going to help me. Desert Twister could potentially help me. So you could argue that maybe it would be best to swap out the Bloodmoons and the Desert Twisters as well, and then most of my sideboard goes into my deck.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have made that change. Bloodmoon seems to me like totally useless. You spend 3 mana on a card and tap out to do nothing.
Yeah,
that's just objectively worse than just having a Desert Twister you can't cast in your hand for a while.
Yeah.
If you get to the mid to late game, Desert Twister gives you the ability to just blow up an Erhnam or a Serendip Djinn.
Yeah,
that might just kill you. So it seems to me like just an obvious swap.
Bloodmoons are mainly in there for the decks that are running, 4 mazes, 4 strip mines, 4 factories, the 4 workshops, that kind of thing. So yeah, you're right. It'd be wise to swap those out.
All right, so let's bring up Philippe's deck real quick here, and I'll take a look at his sideboard. Looking at his sideboard, I mean, the game was over so fast it barely even registered. But if he's got a good angle on your deck list, I can imagine that he would recognize that Crumble has almost no use, given that you're not running Mishra's Factors, you don't really have any other artifacts, and you're running 4 main deck Shatterstorms anyway. So those 3 Crumbles would certainly come out. I could see him bringing in probably all 4 copies of Flash Flood, even though you don't really have a lot of red creatures. You only really have those 4 Curd Apes.
Yeah, only the Curd Apes and the Bloodmoons, so those are questionable.
Yeah, Winter Blast is pretty good, actually. It's kind of the card that he might bring in against you as well. You're playing the deck that it's probably in his sideboard for. And outside of that, he doesn't really have a lot of things that have any applicability to your deck at all. He does have this Enchantment Alteration, which is kind of interesting as a way to pop to kind of instant speed giant growth by jumping an unstable mutation from one creature to another.
Yeah,
I could see him bringing that card in, actually, just because he's got to figure that you're going to bring in active volcanoes. And so if he has the enchantment alteration, he can invest in throwing an unstable mutation on something like a Serendipifreet. And if you try to blast it with active volcano, he could just hop the unstable onto something different.
Yeah, it's pretty clever. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a little bit niche, a little bit narrow, but he does have 4 copies of Unstable Mutation. I could see a swap something like bring in 2 copies of Flash Flood and one enchantment alteration and pull out all 3 crumbles and probably leave it at that. He's not playing with a lot of cards that I really like in the sideboard of aggro decks to beat other aggro decks. I think I've talked before about how good Old Man of the Sea is, and this is a perfect example of where you bring in 4 copies of Old Man of the Sea, and if your opponent can't kill them, you just destroy them with them, particularly with Unstable Mutation. Imagine Unstable to Old Man can just steal anything in your deck, Chad, and just beat you in the face with it.
Yeah. Well, I think Phillipe is one of those players, if I'm not mistaken, who prefers to play with only cards he owns. I mean, I don't think he's running a library in this deck, although you could argue it's so fast it may not be optimal. But
yeah, I don't buy that argument in this format. There's so little card draw. It's not like you have Ancestral and Wheel and Twister and stuff.
I'm with you. But
you just gotta have some way to draw cards.
Yeah, he's got the Sylvans as a plan B, but I think Phillipe is running only cards he owns, so he's probably missing some cards like the Old Man and maybe the library and a few other cards that would normally make it in if you proxied him.
It is interesting though. He does have 4. This look like Black Border Erhnam gens, although they might be 4 in Black Border. I can't tell, but he does have the 4. That's definitely an Arabian Nights Serendib on the top. You can tell by the fact that it has gray text on the little 2 generic mana box.
Yeah.
Which is a telltale sign of Arabians. And Serendib Jin has only been printed in Arabians, so he's got some valuable stuff in the deck. It seems unlikely that he wouldn't have a single copy of Library, particularly if he's an old school player. But maybe he just opted to not run it. It didn't work out very well in testing. He found that he was drawing it a lot of the time when he had already played his hand out. But either way, I think that's probably the sideboard. It's really not very well suited to sideboard against you, but that may just be a reflection of the fact that he didn't deem opposing aggro decks that big of a threat anyway. So let's hop over to game 2. After that instantaneous barn burner of game 1.
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating for me. We played this game early in the morning. I remember I was at the cabin, and I was really looking forward to playing Phillipe because he's a good player. He's a really nice guy. He's a lot of fun to chit chat with, and I was very demoralized by getting blown away. So, hoping to make a better show in game 2. I'm still sideboarding here, so I'm going to move forward a little bit.
Yeah, if you just want to jump ahead. Let me get the cards laid out. There was the little... Okay, looks like we're about ready to kick it off here. You guys doing the little remote cutting strategy where you label your piles as 1, 2, 3, and your opponent just picks a pile to go on top. Sort of seems to be the standardized way that people deal with remote cutting. Well, there's obviously Chad, you be playing first here.
Yeah, we've actually got a couple of spectators, which is kind of fun and surprising since it was a morning game.
Yeah, just wandering by to see what's going on. All right, looks like you're chomping at the bit to go. I smell a Curd Ape, or at least a good turn 1 play here. Yep, turn 1 Scavenger Folk. Even though those guys are specialized against artifacts, you can't really afford to cut them since you don't have anything else to remove.
Right, they're still great. I mean, this is the perfect example. Them or the elves. And also getting my Pendlehaven out early. I know he's got Pendlehaven, so we're playing the original 94 Legends rules, so he cannot play his Pendlehaven, which since mine
that's an insane beating. That's actually, in my opinion, that's a reason not to use Pendlehaven. So you attack for 2, see if you got an ape to go with it. Look at this draw.
Yeah. So I'm feeling really confident here, much better. I don't recall what we ended up with on this match, but I certainly felt like my start was strong and a very keepable hand.
Let's see what Phillipe's got. This is a perfect example of the kind of hand that just gets completely obliterated by Old Man of the Sea if he's got it from the sideboard. If you can't get rid of it, if you don't have Chain Lightning or Active Volcano, just Old Man kills your entire board.
Yeah, well, I've got 4 of each of those, plus the Pyrotechnics. So I have 6, I have 8, I have 10 answers to that, actually, which is, pretty decent.
All right, so but of course you sometimes have to use them on other things. You attack for 3 here. We're going to see if he's obviously not going to block. It looks like you elect to pump Scavenger Folk for another 4 damage, taking Phillipe down to 14. Let me see if you got another follow-up here. I I love the use of Wailulu Wolf in Philippe's deck. Very, very underplayed card. Also, it can cause tremendous fits against both removal and with combat math.
I think he's at 15, Brian.
You hit him for 2 and then 4. Oh, you don't have a forest in play. You're right.
Yeah, no,
you don't have a forest in play. That's right. Yeah,
the
critic's just a 1/1. Yep, exactly. Okay.
Right.
So down to 15. And you've got no other play. So something like a Serenade of Efreet here would definitely put the brakes on unless you've got the... Oh, he played a Pendelhaven.
Oh, well, that is a little violation right there. Oh, he's taking it back.
Look at that. I guess you
caught the error there.
Just shows you how stupid that rule is. That old legendary rule is just the dumbest thing.
Well, all the legendary rules are stupid. You know, I mean, none of them are a good compromise based on what the legends were supposed to be.
Yeah, I think the modern incarnation of the rule is probably the best it's been.
Well, the worst one was where both are destroyed. But even the modern one where you can have one of each, we've had a lot of debates about this because we've been experimenting with a spice flavor on Thursday nights where we're playing these special Legends rules. And, you know, the Legends rule was intended to have one unique character, you know, I don't know, like a truly unique individual in history, or someone like Merlin, or, you know, someone like in Game of Thrones, someone like Jon Snow. You know, there's not multiple Jon Snows. There's only one of that hero. And so, I don't like any of the Legends rules, but I think that the original Legends rule is the most fun and interesting.
Yeah, it looks like, speaking of that, you're looking it up right now.
Yeah.
Philippe's sake, to explain to him about you're using the 94 version of the Legends rule.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the original rule was an example of flavor over function. And I think over the years, people recognized that letting people just play their spells and magic, it's hard enough to draw lands and spells together. You don't need it muddied up by the fact that your opponent might be playing the same legendary things as you and you're just locked out of a permanent type because they just happen to have gone first. It just seems so capricious and pointless that I'm glad that the rules shifted to be more generous in that regard. Let's see if we can get past this rules query right here. We know how it resolves.
Yeah. And this is one of the things about the Four Horsemen that, you know, it's very much an experimental format, right? And the idea of old school being played like it was in 94 is kind of novel given modern rules. But if you really think about the concept of old school and the term old school, there's nothing more old school than playing the old rules. And so that was part of the idea of, hey, what if we had a format where we could have some of these older rules? And it does create a lot of challenges and difficulties, no doubt.
Definitely. All right. So it looks like he did, in fact, have a third mana.
Yeah,
and that allows him to deploy the big 3/4 beater. And if you're not volcanoing this thing at the end of the turn, my suspicion is you don't really have an easy answer for it, actually. See what you've got. It's funny. This just shows you the raw power of Serenade. I talked about that a bunch in my Four Horsemen video about how Serenade of Efreet just overshadows the board. You got to be careful here because he's got a Wailulu Wolf. That thing is actually a 4/5. Although I guess you can still pump and block and chain lightning.
I think I have a chain lightning in hand here, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you wouldn't attack otherwise. But this is going to cost you 2 cards and your entire turn to kill a Serenade, which is kind of the best case scenario for Phillipe anyway, even though it dies.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, he takes almost no damage for the turn. And actually, if I were him, I might even consider blocking the other creature with Wailulu Wolf, since you have to pump. Since you have to pump to kill off a 4/5 Serenade anyway, with Chain Lightning, and that's obviously your goal. If he double blocks here, yeah, he could have blocked with the Wailulu Wolf and killed one of the other creatures right there.
Since he didn't elect to pump either, so he could have made him a 4/5, but I think I would have still had enough damage with the Pendelhaven.
Well, the point is that he doesn't have to make it a 4/5. He can block one with Serenade of Efreet.
Take out the
right. So what are you going to do? Right, you're gonna, like, it's a game of chicken. Okay, so he strip mines your Pendelhaven away, plays his own. Now you're stuck beyond Pendelhaven too.
Oh, sweet revenge.
That Wailulu Wolf can become a a 3/4 by itself also. And he plays a Elves of Deep Shadow, and looks like he's electing to. He's not going. Oh, we got an unstable wolf.
Yeah. So even though I felt like I had a strong start, you can see I'm quickly slipping behind here. Unstable Mutation is such a strong card.
It's very swingy. Yeah, it's risky though. It's risky, particularly after your opponent has boarded in active volcanoes against you. But it's not going to work here since he's got it on a green creature anyway.
Yeah, it looks like I'm short green mana again. If you remember, I have an even number of mountains and forests plus the strip mines with the 20 lands, and then I have 3 Pendelhavens. So I have more green than red, but both games I seem to be short on green.
Phillipe keeps forgetting to put counters on his thing. This is interesting here. And you just jump. That's not a good sign.
No, pretty rough.
And if he's got no play, though. No Erhnam came down there. I'm really wondering why he didn't attack with the Elves of Deep Shadow. Library of Alexandria, but you do not have 7 in hand. I think.
Yeah, colorless mana, just what I'm.
5. Yeah, you have 5 cards.
5 cards and colorless mana. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, you struggled to draw correct colors in both of these games. Actually, no green mana.
Yeah.
Bloodmoon. Yes, you needed triple red to cast Ball Lightning, right? You just got it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a desperation play here. I mean, I had no forest game 1. My only forest game 2 was not a forest, a Pendelhaven. It's been stripped. Everything in my deck that's creatures other than Curd Apes needs a forest. So, and there, like I said, there's more forest green mana in my deck than red, and it's just the bad luck of the draw not getting an even split.
Yeah. Do you regret the decision not to play Mishra's Factories? You are running a ton of lands in your deck. I counted 28.
Yeah, but I didn't have Fellwar Stones. And, I don't know. The factories, they could be very useful.
They're just sort of a consummate threat in...
Uh-oh. Now I'm breaking the rule.
It's debatable, actually.
No, it's in the rule book.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, actually, no, I'm not debating the rule because
the Bloodmoon is turning his Pendelhaven into a mountain.
That's right. His Pendelhaven is now
your Pendelhaven can be played as a mountain too. Exactly. It's a Pendelhaven in your hand, but as soon as it's in play, it's a mountain.
You're right. Yes, that's interesting.
All right, the Wailulu Wolf is down to 1/1. He keeps forgetting to put counters on it before he draws. I hate seeing that, honestly.
He's got a dice on there. Has he not ticked it?
Yeah. He did not tick it again. Come on, man. You're just like, do it before you draw.
Yeah. Maybe he's verbally telling me.
Yeah, but it needs the counter adjustment. So he's got double blue and a green here under Bloodmoon. It just shows how utterly useless the card is in the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to...
Not like you could have cast Desert Twister anyway.
Right.
All right, so you take 2 more damage. I think... I'm struggling to track your life here. I think you're quite low now, though.
I think my life is the metal dice, and his life is the yellow and red dice.
I see. Okay.
Wait a minute. I usually track my life on the right. I'm on right hand, so I think. No, I don't know. Right. Maybe
Chad draws another card, and actually, your own Bloodmoon is kind of screwing you here to an extent. I mean, I guess he did have a Pendelhaven, so you're locked out of green anyway. But if you had drawn a strip mine, you could kill his Pendelhaven, play your own, and then you'd have access to green mana.
Yeah, what I'm hoping for is a land so I can play Pyrotechnics.
Yeah, all right. That thing finally died after he drew a card. He didn't tap it either to pump one of his guys up. Because he's like drawing a card. I just don't understand it. Like you describe Phillipe as being a very good player, but to me, adding counters due to triggered abilities during upkeep is like Magic 101. So I don't understand why he's like so eager to draw a card that he just skips upkeep. I guess he's just like eager to kill you here.
Yeah, I think he knows he's got a clinch on this game, and he's just ready to get it over with.
And you take 2.
Yeah, and here comes big old
Serendib Djinn. Yeah, you don't have any outs against this other than the active volcanoes, which I assume you have in your deck. Chad,
it looks like I'm 6 now is my life count. And
you're down to 6, yeah. So it's basically facing lethal.
Yeah, and he's at 13. Yeah, pretty disappointing, pretty frustrating.
Yeah, well, honestly, this game, And the last game is one of the primary reasons why I was such an advocate for adding alpha dual lands to the format. I mean, just being able to cast your spells in a novel format, it's kind of the reason you play it, right? There isn't a lot of strategic thought going on here, but just being locked out of a color entirely because you're not allowed to play with Taiga just makes your deck objectively worse for no real reason.
Yeah, but you could argue I had room to put in City of Brass, and one of the things I did not elect to do, I think I ran eight mountains and 8 forests, and I didn't run any City of Brass, so I could have had 4 other lands. Oh, there's the forest, a little late,
right on time.
So you could argue that this is the fault of the deck crafting, right? Because City of Brass was available to me, and I chose not to put it in.
Well, you made a calculated decision. You were metagaming heavily against workshops and against special lands, as you explained before, running 4 main deck Bloodmoon and 4 main deck Shatterstorm. So sometimes that's not going to work out because you're playing against a deck that that's running a critical mass of basic lands. And it seems like most of the decks in the format actually are doing that. So I don't think that Bloodmoon is really a card that shines until you add alpha dual lands to the format. And that's it. 2-0 real quick in favor of Phillipe. Chad got his face smashed in very quickly by blue-green skies, and Phillipe will advance to the finals.
Yeah. So we can cover the match of Parker versus John in our next video.
Yep. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one.
Thank you for joining us today for the 4 Horsemen Old School Magic Tournament number 2 summary and matches with Ryan Weissman. If you would like to play 4 Horsemen Old School Magic, we welcome you to join us for our weekly Thursday night Battle Royale meetup. The 4 Horsemen Old School Magic group meets every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the 4 Horsemen Facebook, which is facebook.com/groups/4horsemenmtg. And we also leverage our whereby for virtual matches. Please join us for camaraderie, conversation, casual games, and deck testing, and as always, proxies are allowed. We also would like to invite you to join us to play in our virtual free online tournaments. Our next tournament, number 6, starts March 4th. You can register at teleria.app. To learn more, please join us at 4horsemenmagic.com.